Warriors of Yahuwah and the Truth. I'm going to be continuing on with our word study. Abba, A-B-B-A, it's Hebrew for a male parent. Abba. Abinu is Hebrew for our father. The ending letter U makes the word plural possessive. Adonai, Hebrew meaning my sovereign. Adon is sovereign. It should be next to the bed. Hebrew meaning my sovereign. Adon is sovereign. The ending I, Yod means, or makes it mean my, as expressed in Eloi, my lofty or mighty one. Rabbi, my teacher, and Ani, myself, me, my. The Hebrew term Adonai was used in place of the name. Agnostic, Greek for without knowledge, against Gnostic knowledge. Okay, stop, Roscoe. Agnostic, Greek for without knowledge. Or against Gnostic knowledge. A means against, Gnostic means knowledge in agnostic. The A and the G. A piece, a sacred bull worshipped at Aton by the ancient Egyptians, having horns with a sun disk between them. The Yashreelites made a golden calf, or a piece, to worship the Creator, Yahuwah Elohim. Yahuwah forbade such images and any other pagan practices. Archaeology, from Greek, archaeologia. Archaeo, ancient or beginning, plus logi, study or reason. It's the study of antiquities, primitive, original, and archaic habits, customs, structures, etc. Asceticism, severe self-denial, an austere way of life, supposedly to permit union with the divine. Paul spoke against it at Colossians 2:21 and 22. Pagan monks and hermits often lived this way, most often celibate and living in poverty. This was used by Catholicism, accompanied by various vows to control literate men, who copied and translated the scriptures. In these monks' factories, sentences from scripture were divided up so the men could not make sense from them, as they were copied and translated. A vow of silence was imposed, so they could not discuss what they had worked on with other monks. The sentences would remain incomplete in their minds, and understanding was very limited. Atheist, Greek for one who subscribes to the belief there is no creator, or spiritual beings, placing mankind as the highest authority. A without plus theos, deity, deus, or Elohim. Baal, Hebrew for Lord. This word was used as a proper name for the sun deity by the Canaanites and even the Druids. The familiar word Beelzebub is more accurately the Hebrew Baal-zebub, meaning Lord of the flies. The names containing Baal are references to the pagan deity, as in Isabel and Belshazzar. Another name for Satan is Belial. To say the Lord is my shepherd doesn't relate to the creator, but rather Satan. Satan deleted the true name and put in a generic term referring to himself. The ancients related to the term Baal to the sun, or related the term Baal to the sun. Baptism. Baptism. From the Greek baptizine, to dip, it referred to dyeing fabric, but came to be used by pagans for initiation ceremonies, using water or blood in sprinkling. The true Hebrew word is tevilah, where a person is immersed in a body of water called a mikvah. It also signifies a pledge to obey or repentance. And it is the most important event in one's life in the conversion of a Gentile to become engrafted into Yasharal. It's an outward sign of a commitment to obey Yahuwah and identifies the convert with the death and burial of Yahusha and is the death and burial of one's mind and flesh. Rising up from the water, a convert is identified with the resurrection and walks in obedience, enabled to obey by the spirit of Yahusha's indwelling. It is the circumcision of our heart done by Yahusha and our entry point as citizens of the nation of Yasharal.
Stop. Oh, no.
Bells. The world's oldest bell was unearthed in Babylon. Bells are among the oldest items used in pagan worship and were one of several noisemakers used. They were employed to give worship to the sun and were usually placed in or near the top of an obelisk or high place. Orientals used gongs as well as the familiar bell shapes. They were brought into Christian worship along with steeples from paganism. Augustus Kaiser is on record as having dedicated an enormous bell placed in the entrance tower to the Temple of Jupiter. Belief. A mental act or habit of placing trust or confidence in an opinion, the acceptance or expectation of something to be true or real. But something believed in is exposed. When something believed in is exposed as being false, a reaction is aroused. How an individual reacts depends on how well equipped they are and the degree to which they want to believe the falsehood. Dresden James wrote, a truth's initial commotion is directly proportional to how deeply the lie was believed. It wasn't the world being round that agitated people, but that the world wasn't flat. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the truth will seem utterly preposterous, and its speaker a raving lunatic. If we are imputed righteousness by our belief alone, then why did Yaakov or James write, "Show me your belief without deeds, and I will show you my belief by what I do"? You believe that there is one Elohim, good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. You see that a person is justified by what he does and not by belief alone. To believe includes action. We can say, "He knows my heart," but without love, shown by our obedience, we have profited nothing. When we call him Jesus or Jesus, in Hebrew, he hears yea horse. The word sus means horse. Bible. This word passed into Greek, then Latin. Its books in Greek. It means books in Greek, sorry. Byblos, the city was named Byblos because their fertility idol, Biblia, was worshipped there. In a temple dedicated in her honor, the city was later renamed Gebal. This port city exported papyrus, or the writing paper of the ancient world, so scrolls came to be called after the name of the city, which was the name after an idol. It might not be wise to continue to call the word of Yahuwah the Bible, now that you realize this. He calls his word to mankind the Torah, or teachings, Ne'abim, or Nebiim, prophets, and Kethubim, writings. This is abbreviated to the acronym Tanakh. The Hebrew for scroll is Sefer, or Megillah, his words are called Devarim. Remember Exodus 23:13. Binding and loosing. At Mattiyahu 16:19, Rabbi Yahusha told his pupils whatever they bound or loosed would be validated. The idea of bind means to forbid, and loose means to permit. They have been fully trained in Torah by the Torah giver. He was going away, and his students would have to discern according to Torah. Cathedral, Latin cathedra, meaning throne. Cereal, Latin cerealis, the grain of Ceres, a pagan deity. Charis, From Greek charisma, a pagan deity's name. Charis, wife, is Hephaestos, the fire deity. Charred means burned. Other words produced from this are charity, charisma, and charismatic. The three graces, or three charities, were a pagan trinity, also known as the three fates. Their names were Clotho. Our word cloth was the producer of the thread of life. Lachesis, carrying rods which she shook to determine the fate of mankind, and Atropos, who cut the threads determining the length of a person's life. We inherit this enchantment from witchcraft. Church. The Old English word was circe or circus, and you will see it spelled kirche, written above many old church entrances throughout England, with a K. This is from the West Germanic kirka, which is based on the name of a Greek sorceress, Circe. Circe was famous among pagans for turning men into pigs or other animals using drugs. This original English translation from the Greek text by by John Wycliffe about CE 1380 used the word congregation for ecclesia. The called out body of believers, the original set apart ones who studied and did the word or the commandments, were called kahal, or Hebrew from which we get our word call. The saints were the set apart ones, known as kodashim. Commandments. The original Hebrew word is mitzvah, both singular and plural. The Old English meaning is edict. Bar mitzvah means son of the commandments, or Torah, and bat mitzvah is the feminine. The Talmud identifies 613 commandments, but in the Nazarene writings there are 1,089 specified. Some are only for priests, others are for only women, and many are details pertaining to offerings, vows, and objects like gates or how to handle situations. The goal of Torah is love, summed up in the 10 words or Decalogue, the 10 Commandments. All Torah hangs on... the goal of Torah is love. Yes, I read that part. I apologize. All Torah hangs on the 2 great commandments, which Yahusha quoted to a lawyer who was testing him. Love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Deuteronomy 6:5. And love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19:18. Matthew 22:37. Yahusha warned us not to set aside any of the commandments. Whoever then breaks one of the least of the commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of the Shamayim, or the heaven. But whomever does and teaches them, he shall be great in the kingdom of the Shamayim. Matthew 5:19. Shamayim, or heaven, means skies, outer space, or heaven, often used as a substitution for the name of Yahuwah. Our rabbi restored the name by monks, but monks subsequently removed it again from the text. We know this because at Acts 7:57, the Sanhedrin covered their ears and stoned Stephen to death for saying the name aloud. Shaul later called Paul was there, giving approval for his death. Yahusha told us to become sons of light, and the Torah is light. See Proverbs 6:23. Our eye must be filled with light, or it is darkness without Torah. The commandments sum up how the wife or bride of Yahusha is to live, and is the covenant. The Ark of the Covenant was the portable container holding the commandments, and now his bride has them written on our hearts. The renewed covenant. If we love him, we will obey him. The Greek klerikos went into the Latin as clericus. It means literate. The ability to read and write. Some think Peter couldn't read and write, so he enlisted the help of Scylla, 1 Peter 5:12, to record his words. The words cleric, clerk, and clergy all refer to a man of letters. Literate men could read literature, and those who could read were given status and therefore became known as clergy. The Church of Rome divided their clergy from the laity or common people by the distinction of being literate or not, if you could read or not. They burned books in libraries in part to control literacy and therefore power. Another reason to destroy records was so their revision of history could remain uncontested. People who threatened their control were exterminated by the Inquisition, implemented by the Jesuits and Dominicans. And this is the cross. The next word is cross. The word cross is derived from the Latin word crux, stem, or cruc, or C-R-U-C. The word cross came into the Latin translation when Jerome Eusebius Hieronymus Sophronius translated the Greek word stauros. He did this during the years CE 391 to 403, calling his translation the Latin Vulgate. Catholicism considers this to be inspired. The Greek word stauros means staff, stake, pole, or beam, corresponding to the Hebrew word nas, which the serpent Nehushtan was lifted up into the desert. Yehukanan 3, Numbers 21:9, 2 Kings 18:4. Many scholars strongly suspect that this term and symbol were introduced from paganism, because the use of the cross is so commonly found in primitive pagan religions worldwide. It usually symbolized the sun or an eagle, which Constantine seemed to identify with Apollo, confusing his deity of the sun with Christ. The 1934 Encyclopedia Britannica states, in every part of the world, crosses were used as religious symbols or as ornaments long before the Christian era. It did not become the symbol of Christianity until 400 years later, during the time of Constantine. How did we get so far off the path? This is a picture of a lot of the blasphemous things that the church does, and they still have crosses up. They still use ashes. All pagan. The next section is image of the beast. And that'll start off our next word study for my next video. I hope everyone has a blessed evening. Yahuwah bless you all. We love you, warriors of Yahuwah and the truth. Say bye-bye, Bella Bean. Bye-bye. Shalom, Mishpaka.